And we're live.
Are we alive?
Yes.
Okay. Um, okay, I guess we can start. So, hello everyone. Welcome to the webinar on human resources in SCOPH. This webinar is a defined outcome of our NPO body system group that has been established for our national public health officers who gathered to fight against the problem that they are struggling with back in their own countries. This body system group on human resources consisted of 5 NPOs: Blanca from Catalonia, Vicky from Germany, Elmira from Russia, Georgina from Cyprus, and Milda from Lithuania, who has been also acting as a chair of this group. I might also show the presentation. Okay, good to do that. Okay, sorry for this interruption. Do you see the presentation?
Yes.
Can you check also if it's YouTube channel it's shown?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So these amazing women were supported by SCOPH Regional Assistant for Europe for this term, which is me. And at the beginning of this group, we set the goal to understand the problem we are facing. So we surveyed our officials on how the human resources situation looked like. And apart from that, we tried to contact local NGOs to learn how they ensure a sufficient number of motivated members. We have also conducted research on the current studies and articles about volunteering. The next step of the work was gathering all that information and formulating general structure of our handbook. So for now, I would like to introduce you to the facilitators of this webinar. And first, there is Milda Burneikate. I hope I pronounced it very well. Could you introduce yourself?
So, hello, I'm Milda, and I'm the ex NPO of Lithuania, and I was the chairperson for this body system group, and I'm really happy about the outcomes.
Okay. The next facilitator will be Gregory Papantaniou. Can you introduce yourself?
Hello, it's Papandoniou. Hello, Gregory. I'm the NPO of Greece. In fact, I wasn't even an NPO when that body system group worked. But I will be happy to share my experience with you in that webinar.
Okay, thank you. And the third facilitator will be Dominika Kacmanova. Can you introduce yourself, please?
Hello, I'm Dominika, and I am NPO from Czech Republic, and I am new NPO, so I wasn't involved, but I like it.
Okay, thank you, Dominika. There should be also on this call Virginia Casiliani, the NPO of Italy, but unfortunately she couldn't attend the meeting. During the webinar, we'll also read her answer to the questions that she was supposed to answer on air. Okay, so I guess we can go for the agenda. I'll introduce you to the agenda that we have for this webinar. So we'll start with the problem statement, which is the simple definition of the problem that we are dealing with, which is the human resources in SCOPH. Then we'll proceed to the round of introduction to the situation in our animals, when we'll have the chance to hear the personal experience of the human resources from Greece, Czech Republic, Italy, and Lithuania. Then we'll go to the question, how does the situation look like in Europe in animals in IFMSA? Then I will try to answer the question, why do we volunteer? And we'll make some introduction to the theory of volunteering. One of the last parts of this webinar will be the question, what are the benefits of being engaged in NGOs work as a medical student. And last but not least, we'll try to name some positives, some benefits of being engaged in the work of NGOs. So we'll try to see how to get more engaged, motivated members for our action. At the end of the webinar, we'll try to answer your questions. During the webinar, you can ask the questions on the YouTube channel by commenting the video that we're sharing with you. And also you can send your questions on the Facebook group, IFMSA SCOPH Europe. You can comment the last post that I shared there with the link of the webinar. We'll see both of the questions there. Okay, guys, you're all welcome to ask the questions. I'll try to highlight it once again during the webinar at all times. Don't worry that you might interrupt us because we would like to have this webinar done in more interactive manner. We would be very pleased if you enrich this content of it with your questions, comments, or even suggestions. So try to be also a part of this webinar, try to ask the questions, try to add your comments, suggestions, maybe you want to share some experience. We would like to see that definitely. So let's start our webinar now. So what is the problem? What is the issue that we are going to talk about in this webinar? So the problem with human resources starts with a lack of active members in our structures, locally, nationally, and internationally. This particular issue is well known, tends to repeat every term, and strongly inhibits development of SCOPH in our region. It is like self-reinforcing loop. The bigger problem someone faces with a lack of active members, the more burnout they feel, and finally the problem gets more serious, as you can see here on this graph of self-reinforcing loop. So when we organize an activity as leaders, we spend a great deal of time on ensuring the sufficient number of participants as well as their proper training. In IFMSA, the turnover is also quite high of the positions. It is common that people do not hold their position for more than 1 year. This creates a challenge to sustain the organizational impact in our activities, such as a project or active advocacy measures. What has been also reported in the past by NPOs is that there is a low level of recognition of volunteering benefits in student organizations. Simply put, people do not see definite advantages of being involved in anything apart from university course or scientific work. What is more, our national member organizations in most of the countries in Europe do not have strategic plans for human resources. What we noticed while working in the body system group is that actually we have low level of knowledge about the volunteering and efficient human resources practices. This issue is commonly discussed during national general assemblies, like it was in my NGAs in the past. Some solutions appear, but they are not usually implemented or they do not produce the outcomes we would desire. So how does the situation look like in our NMOs? We would like to ask now the facilitators of the online meeting to respond to those questions. So I would like to ask Gregory, Dominika, Milda, and we'll also read the answers from Virginia. 2 questions. How do you link, engage, and empower members to become public health leaders? And in this question, by linking, we understand how organizations recruit volunteers and initially build a relationship with the volunteer. Then by engaging, we mean what is the process of involving volunteers fully in the organization, its cultures and practices. And by empowering, we have in mind how our organization encourage natural transition to leadership positions. So that will be the first question. And then we have a second question. How do you ensure successful work of your SCOPH team? LPOs, activity coordinators, assistants, and more. So the first person to answer those questions will be Gregory from Greece. So please respond to the questions.
Okay. Well, for the first question, at the beginning of the year, we have an Open Helmsick week. It is a week when we present Helmsick after the end of the classes. And we open our offices to medical students, for medical students to come. In that way, we introduce students to the world of Helmsick and IFMSA. So during the Open Helmsick week, as well as during the weekly local meetings, we present each standing committee and try to give the students a brief view of what they're going to do as local officers. After a couple of weeks, we have the local elections when local officers are elected. In Helmsick, there can be more than one local officer in one standing committee, all of them equal to one another, because I know that in some NMOs, for each standing committee, there is only one local officer and the assistants of local officers. So we don't have assistants. We have, for example, in one local committee, maybe 3 local officers. So we encourage newcomers to run for local officers. Through that, we believe that by executing a variety of tasks, they quickly get engaged to Helmsick and IFMSA. And when we form small working groups, we put an older and a younger member together so as to let the first guide the younger member. So the whole thinking around that is that we try to engage members quickly to do things and have a responsibility. They're local officers from the first month they get introduced to Helmsick. They have the responsibility of the local officer, and yes, they get engaged more quickly. And as for the insurance of the successful work, in Helmsick we use a more central structure. For example, the majority of our projects are managed nationally, either they run locally or not. I mean that it is very rare for a project to run only in one local committee. By that, we ensure the quality of the program, since it is basically coordinated by a more experienced member, either a national officer or a local coordinator. So as a national officer, I have the general monitor of the local OCs in every SCOPH project. It's basically it is very rare for one local officer to decide to run a project and to run the project in some months. We decide the projects from the beginning of the year, and we say that those three projects of SCOPH will run nationally throughout the year. So it's more a planned decision. And with the SCOPH team, we have monthly online meetings so as to keep in touch and have a more direct communication. Either we have a project to run in that period or not. So that's all. I hope I answered to the questions. If you have any questions about that, you can ask me.
Okay, thank you very much, Grigory, for your thorough response. And now the questions goes to Dominika from Czech Republic.
So we have open weekend at the beginning of our year, and it's for all students, for all faculty, and they see all section from IFMSA, and they meet with new friends from IFMSA, and we introduced them everything, and it's also team building weekend, and then they can choose which activity like most. Then we have usually a meeting with new students in the first or second year in our faculty at the beginning of the year, and we have presentation about our projects. Then we have a training weekend, and it's also for all students, and it's more team bonding activity, and weekends, and now we plan IFMSA Medical Cup as a competition for students who are not in FMSA. Next time will be with FMSA. And then as far as encourage to become leader, I think it's fine to have training for students which improve their skills, and they are more they are not so they want to become better, and I think it also depends on the leader before them, because usually um, local and national coordinators choose people who are the most involved in FMSA, and then they encourage them to become coordinators after them. And I think it's really important to support them and explain them everything before they become a leader. And as far as a successful SCOPH team, uh, I want to have a meeting with um, SCOPH heroes every month. So we have open weekend, and then we have National Assembly for us, where we can work. And then we have a SCOPH weekend every semester, and part of it is for work for FMSA, and part of it is team building and other activities. And I think that national coordinator should be motivated to the work, and then he can motivate uh, other students and the SCOPH team. And I think it's the basic of success. I think it's all.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dominica, for your answers. So now we'll proceed to the answers of Virginia, the NPO of Italy, and her answers will be read by Milda.
So, quickly, the answers of Virginia. So, the NMO of Italy has a complex and pyramidal SCOF structure because it is composed by the team of NPO. So, there's NPO and other related coordinators. There's 7 people there. And as well, they have 39 LPOs. So the term starts with personal calls from the NPO to LPOs, and their main communication channels are WhatsApp group, mainly for SCOPH team members, and as well email and a Facebook group for everyone. And she's elaborating on this more. We will send you the link. You can read about this more. And as well, she's telling that to encourage and empower my LPOs. So I use the mailing list, the Facebook group, and the sessions during NGA. We do sessions about soft skills. For example, during the last NGA, we did a session on recruitment and handover, our LPOs to manage their local SCOPH groups, and about SCOPH topics such as mental health, social accountability, vaccinations, and so on. The NGA is a very important moment to have a face-off, to discuss together relevant topics on public health and to decide our priorities. We have an important event to train the new SCOPH leaders, the SCOPH meeting. During this event, the NPO and the SCOPH meeting train the SCOPH heroes on soft skills, especially team building, group management, leadership, and conflict management, in addition to the most important SCOPH topics. About the SCOPH team, I have a WhatsApp group and mailing list for our intern communications, in addition to regular Skype calls. I divide in a clear way the work and the competencies. I discuss with them all the most important questions, and I do reminds when it's needed. I try to encourage them to be independent because I think it's more satisfying. So this was from Virginia from Italy, and I can quickly present the station in Lithuania we have. So the main idea that new member linking process is started when we deliver introduction meeting for new biomedical students during the first weeks of September, and then we deliver 2-day training for new members in the last week of September as well. During the meetings, we introduce LIMSA culture, structure, and main topics, create bonds with new members. And engagement process is mainly based on personal relationships with members. We empower members by delegating responsibilities to them based on their experiences and, of course, supporting them all the way. As well, we provide capacity building for them on the topics they are working on. And about SCOPH team, we mainly work on the same principles that we will discuss later in the webinars. So and they are more described in the handbook, so I will just stop here. Maciek, can we move to the other part?
Yes, of course.
So again, it's my turn to speak. During our work on the handbook, this was during May and June of 2018, 2 Google Forms were created and shared among all European countries in order to collect data regarding human resources in European NMOs. So first, Google Form was shared with officials in SCOPH, and we got 28 responses from 16 European countries. And other second form shared with just regular SCOPH or NMO members, and we got 38 responses from 9 European countries. We think that 2 different questionnaires will help us to get a better perspective about human resources in Europe. And during the webinar, we will only show a few questions because of the lack of time, but you will be able to see more statistics later on. So in the slide, you can see the pie charts from officials questionnaire. So we can see that 100% of officials stated that HR problem exists in their NMO. 82% think it's an extended problem, and 89% think it's an old problem. But yet, 71% doesn't have anyone working on the problem. So we see that the problem exists, but we don't actually have some structured ways how to deal with it, as Maciek said in the introduction. So can you change the slide? Okay, so we can see the opinion of officials and members side by side about HR problems. So as we see, both mentioned lack of motivation and poor communication as main problems. So while working on HR, we should focus on them, especially because officials and members both think this is the main problems. But we can see that from officials, it's also they think it's about the time management, ignorance of existing projects, and lack of responsibility and commitment. And from members, they have a lack of interest in offered activities, lack of knowledge about discussed topics, or lack of further outcomes from participating, lack of leadership from the officials, and lack of mentorship from officials. So when we work on HR, we should focus mainly on motivation and communication. And as well, we can't forget that they need the knowledge and they want to be interested in the activities and as well see how the outcomes are. And as well, we have to remember to be leaders and to be mentors. Next slide. Okay, so now you can see the reasons why members start participating in NMO activities and why they remain active. They are similar. For example, personal growth, the ability to deepen your knowledge, desire to give back to the community, and friends, of course. Although it is important to realize that for member engagement, mentorship plays a more important role. So actually, we gave the same list of possible answers, but as we can see, for keeping participating, mentorship is more important than for starting. So as well, we have to ensure the first four, but we have to realize that some things motivate members to join, but others motivate them to keep engaged. So this was a short introduction to the statistics we have. I think this is the most important part to realize, and I think we can move on.
Mhm. Okay. For those who are listening to us now, we invite you to share your comments, your questions with us, your suggestions. You can also tell us from which animal who you are, and also what position do you hold, and why do you think the problem of human resources is such an important issue in your local structures and in SCOPH in general. We invite you to be a part of this webinar just by simply messaging us on Facebook, on the IFMSA European SCOPH group, or just by commenting the YouTube channel. Even if it's not live, if you don't watch it live, please also send the questions. We might check up on them later and answer as well. So now we'll move to the next part, which is the theory of volunteering. So we'll try to simply answer the question, why do we volunteer? So starting during our research in body system, we came across wide range of articles about volunteering, but the one that seemed the most relevant to our setting we have in IFMSA was made by an organization called Volunteering Queensland. So this organization is a government body solely dedicated to advancing volunteering for economic, social, cultural, and environmental well-being in Queensland, the East region of Australia. What they did is that in 2010, Volunteering Queensland produced a report called Youth Leading Youth, which examined the key factors that inspire and engage young people in the non-for-profit sector and maintain their volunteering practice. So we thought that it might be relevant also to IFMSA. What happened next? The report they made received interest from a variety of organizations that were led by youth, mostly because it offered clear strategies that can be adopted by organizations in their efforts to more effectively work in collaboration with young volunteers aged 18 to 25. You can imagine what leaders of different NGOs felt about this project when they saw a number of solutions based on the experience of 8 organizations selected out of 23 on the basis of their effectiveness in human resources practices. So what was the breakthrough about their findings? How to be successful in human resources management? What they did also is that they developed practice framework called the 4 stages of volunteer engagement that I believe we should be all aware of. So first stage is creating a culture, followed by linking, engaging, and belonging leadership. Last stage, belonging leadership, can be joined because those volunteers that felt a strong sense of belonging were often described or perceived as being leaders, and vice versa. This happened usually in the youth volunteering organizations. In adult one, it was separated. So maybe let's now go stage by stage and discuss what it actually means and how can we use that theory into practice. So starting with the first stage, culture could be described as driven by or built upon a shared passion for a particular issue. In SCOPH, it could be a passion for mental health, antimicrobial resistance, climate change, and health. It is like bringing like-minded individuals relating to the same issue. So, as it is the first stage of engaging volunteers, involving volunteers in our organization, we can see that culture is very critical and should be embedded through variety of practices. Initial induction and bonding processes can be done by organizing extensive welcoming, when the history of organization is told, when the plans for the years ahead are made, and how the new volunteers will be involved. Another way to do that has been proved by building the similarities between the members. Think about it. What are the similarities between IFMSA members? Do you have any ideas? Write it down in the comments on YouTube channel or Facebook group. You are dying to see them. So maybe giving you my very basic examples. I believe it could be the same age, same course of study mostly, right? The medical students, same favorite song. For example, My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion, right? Like from the last August meeting in Montreal. Or maybe love for traveling. Those are the things that we share as a similarities. What is really challenging at this stage is definitely being inclusive to all new members while creating strong sense of bonding. What do I mean by this is that when we become such a strong group of friends working in the local committee or executive board, at the same time, we create the tension of new members that would like potentially to break into. Do you get that? Like we have like a local committee, which are the people who are usually very experienced, who have a set of leadership skills, who are some kind of authority for the new members, and that's always attention to be inclusive while being bonded. So wrapping this stage up is that what is the culture in IFMSA in our animals? Is it the long list of abbreviations we use? Is it extreme power not to sleep for several days in a row, like in General Assemblies, international or national? Is it the love for coffee? Is it the passion to make the world healthier? Is it the national food and drink a party? What do you think, guys? I think it might be all of that. We could use that knowledge to introduce new members to IFMSA and create that first bond, create that culture, transmit it. So the second stage of volunteers engagement is linking, which is used to describe how organizations recruit volunteers and initially build a relationship with the volunteer, as you can see here on the slide. In this term, it is highlighted that we recruit the members. The most successful organizations, volunteering organizations, usually demonstrate sophisticated and often innovative volunteer recruitment and orientation processes, and they place a great deal of emphasis on direct people contact and face-to-face connection and discussion. So, as you can see, the recruitment process is very important at this stage of linking. So how we are doing that, right? Just to give you an idea how the recruitment process can look like differently. So it could be a recruitment breakfast when old and new members meet and discuss their experiences, as well as they aim to ascertain not only if the person would fit in the organization, but more specifically, what are those new people's skills and interested, and therefore what position would suit them the best, right? We have 6 standing committees. We have different people, and there's even a subculture in all of those standing committees. So think about what is the subculture of SCOPH, why people are usually in it. Other way to recruit the members, for example, would be peer recommendation. When one person was asking friends, usually like-minded, if they would be interested to fill some position or work on particular issue. What is more, some organizations use technology and social media for linking, but in no stance did technology replace a personal face-to-face interaction. So what I mean by that is that when we are in IFMSA, we sometimes need people to fill the positions to sustain the work of the local committee, of the executive board. We sometimes have to encourage people to jump into the positions. How we are doing that, how we are linking our volunteers, is usually by peer education, by personal recommendation. You can see that this contact is really crucial for the functioning of our organization. So you can wonder why other organizations, for example, use technology, how they use the social media. But the reasoning is very simple for being more face-to-face contact orientated. It is because by meeting with people, by talking to them directly face-to-face, we can not only talk about the organization, but also share our culture through direct contact, which is as important as the linking process as we described in the first stage. So you can see that technology, when it's used, it should be only considered as a tool to enhance personal affiliation to organization, but not as primarily thing to recruit the members. Remind yourself how you have been recruited to IFMSA. How did it look like? Was it through friends during welcome week for freshmen at your university? Respond to that question, commenting to the webinar on YouTube channel or in Facebook group IFMSA SCOPH Europe. So at the end of that explanation to this stage, to the linking stage of volunteering involvement, I would like to underline one thing that might be crucial for this part. So successful organizations, the ones that are recognized with the best practices, they usually tend to feel that it's important to have also a clear next step for the people after an event of recruitment, just to make sure that the people have an avenue for engagement. So they have a clear idea what is the process of being more linked to the organization, right? So something like sharing a reference to more profound information, how to be involved in an organization work, sharing the contact to be support in case they need information, or just explanation what are the next projects the local committee or general NMO has in the future. Going to the third stage of this model, we have engaging. By definition, engaging is the process of involving volunteers fully in the organization, its culture and practices. So how to do that? How does it look in practice? First thing is to ensure flexibility within boundaries. So what is that actually? Well, it means that members are able to exercise creativity and perform a task in their own way and time while understanding their boundaries and support options for support. Why is it such an important thing at this stage? So you can like mindset yourself when you started and your adventure in IFMSA. Young people really want to show their skills. They want to show innovative thinking, thinking out of the box, thinking about different solutions to the same problems. And they also want to share their own experiences. They want to use that experiences to improve what already is functioning or what has not been established yet. Why then we need defined boundaries? Why in this organization? Why do we need to have some restrictions? So there are many reasons why. Having boundaries means respecting the institutional memory and also ensures that the past experience and learnings are not lost and previous mistakes are not duplicated, which is particularly relevant to youth organizations why it's relevant to the youth organizations, where in the youth organizations, the volunteers may only stay with the organizations for a short period of time. Thus, these clear boundaries are very important to reach higher impact and ensure better outcomes of the organization activity. So what we have to do in IFMSA animals in order to make sure that initiatives started by our members are aligned with the aims of our organizations. So basically, we should have a clear idea what is the vision of organization, what is its strategy, what is the plan for the next years, what is the priority and focus. We should also, at the same time of making sure that initiatives are supported within the aims of the organization, we should also avoid practices and processes that are too stringent or of too much bureaucracy, because there should be a balance in it. We should have a clear boundaries that tell our members what our organization is about and what is our vision, mission, goals, and all of this. But at the same time, we should not limit our members from their own initiatives. We should give them that freedom to create their own projects within, of course, the aim of organization, but with their own idea, their own methodology, because we have no idea if it might work or not. And in the sense, we want to give that freedom to youth volunteers. So engaging also means that we are giving a personal feedback, and we should always think about it after each activity to include it in our plan of action. What about the last stage of belonging and leadership? Do you know what is the most powerful tool to build these belonging feelings? If please share your ideas in the YouTube channel or Facebook group. So what has been established by Volunteering Queensland is that one of the most powerful tools to build that belonging feelings is by sharing stories of previous successes. This is how we convey the history of organization, its purposes, and its culture. That's how we can build an identity within the organization. What could be the stories in IFMSA about? Do you have any ideas what could be, what kind of stories have you heard in IFMSA basically? Well, given my ideas that I wrote it down here, is that it could be the history of successful campaign, of notable initiatives, maybe some general assembly stories, maybe stories from IFMC exchanges, sub-regional trainings, maybe public health leadership training stories, and so on. Think about it. What made you feel belonging to IFMC and to your animal? Well, in my case, it was definitely the stories from SCOPH exchanges. It is how I drowned an IFMC culture and how my organization attracted me in first place. So what can be done in this matter? How we can build the feeling of belonging? Well, I think we should ensure good human resources management by publishing reports from the events, projects in our channels, or through the personal contact with our members. What about the second part, the leadership part? Well, the best practice recognized is to encourage the follow through of good ideas and focusing on those volunteers who generate ideas and then providing the appropriate support and resources to have them get the idea off the ground. So basically searching for the people who have an initiatives, who have their own ideas for the projects, for the activity, for their improvement, and then supporting them with all that needs. Going to the next part of our webinar, we'll point out some benefits of the NGA's work. Do you have any questions about it? What is your general opinion about the benefits of NGA's work? How do you feel it is relevant to your animal? How do you rate your knowledge about the benefits of NGO's work? Well, Here, I would mention some of the benefits of being involved in NGOs while being a medical student. Actually, all of them that you can see here on the slide are proved by numerous of research studies done by on the students' organizations. We'll share the link to the articles, to the research articles about those benefits at the end of the call, uh, so you can also follow up on these references. So we are sure now that people who are volunteering in the non-governmental organizations, not for profit, have better mental and physical health, higher life satisfaction, better self-esteem, and it's usually ends the loneliness. Well, we can be sure that the people are more happy and have lower depressive symptoms and psychological distress, mostly because of the strong social network and social support. We are sure for now that one of the benefits of working in the NGO is that we can build our own capabilities and capacity by acquiring new skills. Imagine that I wouldn't have the skill of organizing webinar if I wasn't a part of IFNSA. I wouldn't know how to even establish the YouTube channel or Hangouts. Another benefit is that we can have a strong social networking. We can make some friendships for a lifetime. We have this increased socializing, right? We have the friends from all over the world, Europe, and so on. We can actually develop emotional stability within the NGOs. What is really interesting is that when you volunteer, you have reduced risk of Alzheimer's disease, and actually have no idea what's the mechanism of it, and probably the researchers are still wondering about it. What is definite is that we have better job prospects. We have, by working in IFMSA, but not only, also in other volunteering organizations, we have more alternative career paths just by doing different jobs, by acquiring different skills. And what has been also proved in research is that we improve our college performance. Well, I'm not sure about this, the last part, but it has been proved, so it must be true. So could you actually name other benefits from your own experience? How do you how would you say the what is the benefit for you of being involved in IFMSA, of being involved in NGO in general? Please write it down in your comments. And now we'll move to the last part of the webinar. I encourage you once again to ask the questions in our channels. This part will be about NPO management, so how to manage the human resources in SCOPH at the national level, but also I think it is relevant to local level, how to basically increase the volunteers, the active members in our structure. And this part will be facilitated by Milda.
So after we have carried out the European statistical analysis and as well did some research on volunteering, we decided that we need some specific tools for NPOs to better do human resources management. So we have created some suggestions for NPOs to use this knowledge better. It is very important to realize that the main objective of the NPO is to ensure the quality of human resources management by other SCOPH team members. So we have created this time-bound manual to provide the key aspects of this process. So we have divided it into three main parts correlating with the working year. So it's the preparational work, then the linking and engagement, and the successful end of the year. So next slide, Maciek. So how should the year start? It's so in the beginning of autumn or even during the summer, we should do the SCOPH meeting with all the SCOPH officials. And this meeting should take place as soon as the whole SCOPH team is elected. If it's impossible to organize live face-to-face meeting, the contents of the meeting should be delivered to the SCOPH team via online meetings, webinars, and web platforms, or as a part of other trainings events. This is important to establishing a good relationship and communication in the SCOPH team, to build capacity of the SCOPH team, and to ensure the quality of human resources management and activity planning. So the main parts of the meeting should consist of the proper handover from the previous team. It should be a way of creating culture. So mainly you should just explain NMO, your own NMO and IFMSA history, as well as the current situation. Explain the role of the SCOPH team in NMO and IFMSA. For example, position specific. Then there should be an introduction to SCOPH strategic plan, official SCOPH related NMO and IFMSA documents. There has to be some sessions about volunteering, at least the second part of this handbook, preferably more, about activity planning and management, use of media and their activity, possible NGOs, NGOs, and other partnership opportunities. There should be a discussion in order to select the main topics of the year. And if the priority topics was clear before, then you should organize a capacity building session regarding this topic and create a list of resources with information on that particular topic. As well, you should create some feedback methods which should be used and agreed upon during the year. And you should establish communication rules, and you should agree upon them as well. So, for example, if one of your SCOPH team members wants to stop working at 10 p.m., then this is the time he or she should explain that. Don't write me during the night or something like that. And as well, team building exercises should be integrated in the training. What is also important, if possible, try to do volunteer needs analysis before the meeting, and then you can discuss it during it. So yeah, can we move on to the second part? Second part is mainly about linking and engagement of the SCOPH team and like what should we do during the year. And second part includes the left part of the slide includes the basic documents that ensure the successful work and good communication. So first of all, you should have the SCOPH introduction plan. So you have to agree upon how you will introduce SCOPH to members in your NMOs, and it should be consistent in all LCs. And you should also create an activity plan for the year, and you have to agree upon it. Of course, it might be changed during the year, but main parts should be decided at the beginning. As well, you have to agree on online platforms that you will going to use. It might sound similar to the communication methods I have mentioned before, but communication methods is mainly what I meant is to discuss what WhatsApp is used, Messenger, email, and so on. And this is more about if you are using spreadsheets, Trello, Slack Space, or something, how will you measure your activity, work, success, and feedbacks, and so on, and how you will document it. And the last part, you should organize regular online meetings with the SCOPH team. It should be individual and or group. The purpose of these meetings is to establish personal contacts with SCOPH members. It consumes time, of course, but strengthens the relationship and motivation of the SCOPH members, and in the long run, it's worth the time. During the meetings, the progress should be discussed and feedback should be given, both for SCOPH team members and NPOs. This is also the time to offer or ask for help and suggest opportunities. And another important part is the middle of the year SCOPH meeting. It's on the right. And this meeting is flexible because, of course, it's not always possible to do like the big SCOPH meeting in the middle of the year. And you should look at it with creativity. If it's possible, make it as a part of NMO SCOPH weekend. If not, integrate it or parts of it into different NMO events. In the worst case scenario, use online meetings. In any case, the main parts of the meeting should be carried out, and it's mainly the overview of the work that you have done, and it's also the feedback. You should focus on giving the feedback about the half of the year. It's also very important to do in a correct way. Um, and as well, you should discuss about the priorities you had set in the beginning of the year and make sure that everyone still agrees on them. And as well, discuss about the activity plan that you have created in the beginning of the year and make sure that everyone still agrees on it if it needed. And if needed, you should make changes in that. And if it's possible, you should deliver sessions for capacity building. This is the ability to deepen the knowledge and this was the indicator for one of the biggest motivation factors by European SCOPH members. So, of course, it's not always possible to do every part of this, but still, you should think about it and try to use at least main parts of it in your work, or just think creatively, try to adapt this in online media and so on. And the third part, magic. So the third part is the successful end. So it's also about the SCOPH meeting, the last one, and we can't forget this one because it's one of the way we can measure how we succeeded or not succeeded during the year. So it's very important to do the reflection of the year, mainly just discuss what have you done and what impact maybe you have made during the year and how are you feeling about it. And as well, you should give the feedback for SCOPH members. It can only be done in various ways. You can write letters to each other, talk in groups individually, or any way you want to do it, but feedback is crucial for success. And as well, you should discuss the possibilities for the next year, especially if some of the people are remaining in the team or are becoming the part of the team. So you should discuss with all your knowledge you have gathered about what can be done next. And as well, you have to recognize the success, because recognition of success is extremely important to volunteers. It ensures their satisfaction with the work they have done and is linked to better chances of members returning to work at the NMO during the next year. So, recognition of success shouldn't be limited with formal activities. Don't forget to give feedback and encourage SCOPH team members throughout the year. And sometimes small gifts, such as baking a cake for a meeting, can truly make a difference. So there are a lot of smart words here, but in the end, things actually depend on the people. And as I said, like baking a cake sometimes can be, or just writing a voice note in front before a very stressful event can make a difference and can make the person believe that he can do more. And this is how you empower people. It's sometimes only a voice message that can make a difference. So magic slide. Yeah, so you have to remember that it's all about the people and no one else. They have to feel good. You have to make them feel good. And as well, you have to feel good yourself. If you're burnout, then none of this will work out. You have to take care of yourself, then you will have a great mental health. And then your SCOPH team will have it as well, because you will have internal resources to give it to them. And now it's time for questions because it's all about the people. So it's about you guys now. Actually, I can start with the question we got in advance. Okay. So we got a question from Kristina Stamenkovic, NPO of Croatia. And she asked us how to motivate co-workers, participants in some long-term projects to be truly consistent and dedicated, and to keep their motivation and enthusiasm till the end of the project. So what we have created as an answer is one of the most important parts is to actively communicate with the participants. So there is no stronger motivation than personal connection. You should start personal conversations with the participant from the beginning of the project and keep talking with him, her throughout the project. If it's a long term project, it is beneficial to set personal and public health goals for the project. After that, the coordinator will know what are the expectations of the participant and can help to meet them. As well, during other conversation, you both can check the progress and think of ways to improve and feel better. As well, you should check on him if there is any challenges and encourage to ask for help. It's also important to provide useful resources for information regarding the project. Members feel more engaged and motivated when they feel good about the knowledge on the topic. Um, okay, I can. Okay, someone commented that learning how to set goals and work on them, do something productively during instead of wasting it. Yeah, that sounds really nice.
May I add something on the previous question?
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes it isn't only about one coworker. Sometimes we have bigger organizing committees for some long-term projects where there is also very difficult to keep them engaged. For example, if you have a project that you organize for about 6 months before the project, so then it is more difficult to keep them engaged because it's kind of impossible to have a personal contact with each one of them. So I believe that the best thing that you can do so as to keep them engaged and keep them focused on the work is the one you mentioned last, the regular updates, so that each member of the organizing committee to do regular updates to the other members, so as all of them know in what exact stage does the organization, does the organizing part goes. For example, if everything is okay with the budget, or everything is okay with the logistics, and be totally aware of the ongoing process. Thanks.
Okay, thank you very much for your answers. I believe that we have not received any more questions. Milda, did you get any questions as well?
No, I think it's all about the questions now. But if anyone gets any questions while watching the recording of the video, you should comment them or write me or Maciek personally. We will be really happy to answer them.
Okay, so I think we can wrap up this webinar. So the first take-home message that we have for you is that we are going to publish very soon the handbook on human resources management in SCOPH that has been done as a part of a body system group. So we can follow up on this and also learn more on what we have researched about and what we have discovered through the surveys done in the European NPOs and also European officials. And we encourage you to start the discussion how the human resources management look in your animals on the local and national level. So your organization could have more benefits of having more active members, thus developing the animal itself. We also invite you to implement the solutions that we proposed, or at least take some time to think what could be relevant and achievable in your setting. So also develop a SCOPH structure back in your country, so more people could take advantage of being involved in the NGOs, could have better mental health, could have better physical health, higher level of happiness and satisfaction, and also be empowered by these ideas that we all share and the vision that we have for the healthier communities. I would like to thank to the facilitators of this webinar to being a part of it. It was a great contribution to it, and also to the body system, NPO body system members, so Elmira, Georgina, Vicky, Milda, and Blanca, for also great contribution to this handbook. And I also please stay tuned, or in the IFMC SCOPH Europe group will post their handbook for sure. Thank you very much, and yeah, have a good Sunday.